again, and I am continuing where I ended off by explaining the first design. But remember, this was only a design which they played with interdimensionally and not actually manifested it yet. So they knew they required hand forms, which was pretty big, bigger than the rest of the physical form. They had the head, just the normal shape it is right now, more of a round egg shape. They had then, of course, the body part as it exists now. The legs were long, straight, feet huge, very big, as big as the hands, so really big. But the feet were more in a claw way. The hands were more physical hand-like. If you take gorillas, or even big apes, that would be like the form of the hands, almost, and the feet, to a certain extent, not completely. So the feet were like really massive, with these claws. Why the claws specifically was so that when they walked, they were able to walk properly on this manifested ground, and they're able to claw themselves in, especially when they're required to pull the gold pieces out with certain instruments and stuff. They were required to really dig into the ground, strong, and like pull it out. So they required a stable, big manifest placement of themselves. The physical body, the form itself wasn't really that important. It was more the feet, the hands. Then of course the eyes. The eyes were more, also kind of reptilian-like, more like slits, yet round inside. And it had a view. If you take, like for instance, I think cats have those reptilians, that form, point, circular point. And that was their basic design first. This looks cool. That was just like in a picture form. Remember that. It was just drawn to a certain extent. He said, okay, this looks cool, But now they had an interesting thing. They could see. Everyone can see. They could, didn't necessarily breathe, But they wondered, how are they going to sustain this form here? How does that work? How does what exists here exist? How do they exist? How do they see? That started coming out. Because imagine you're in this world and you didn't have, doctors, scientists that discovered how you see, how you think, how your brain works, how your physical body works. And you want to find out, how do I see? That question probably most definitely would have come up, because how else does anything exist here? Because such questions came forth. How do people see? How do you breathe? How does that really work? And that's the same questions the Anunnaki asked with the Atlanteans. As how will this form, this vessel, sustain itself here? Now remember, first there was only the ground. In terms of the expression of nature and the plants and things, that developed interesting on its own to a certain extent. But it wasn't specifically in this form. It wasn't in the form of trees as you see it now. It wasn't in the form and shape of plants. It was one expression. It was beautiful, magnificent. And they wondered, okay, but now how does this work? How did it manifest in the first place? Because they didn't know. All that they did was place in the gravitation center core of this planet, and from that everything else just started manifesting and coming forth. And so they started investigating with the Atlanteans' assistance, of course, because they realized that what is busy happening is a vacuum is being formed. A vacuum here on this planet. So that's where the expression of nature and the entire cycle of, you know, the, what do you call it, the CO2 and the O2 and whatnot, air and oxygen, and I don't know, I'm not scientific, I don't know the meanings of everything, but you know when you breathe, what you breathe in and what you breathe out, which is the same as plants and nature. So in terms of the sustaining the physical form, now just to get back more specifically, I apologize if I'm jumping a bit, but I just need to have you be on par, was developed round about when basically nature was reasonably manifested, but not like this. I'll tell you now how it became like what you call trees, flowers, plants, interest and manifested expressions like that. So they went to nature. They went to what exists here and how it exists. How does it sustain itself? So they required to understand, how does this planet sustain itself, manifested? And that's where they kind of discovered how it is as though everything breathes. That there is something that exists of this planet that breathes. But they didn't define it as a breathing. They actually believed that this planet was alive in itself. And it was amazing, because how do you explain something like that? Even for the Atlanteans and enlil, they didn't understand it. They really believed this planet was alive, because it was sustaining itself. It was expressing itself. And it wasn't happening anywhere else. And so they found out in terms of how this planet sustains itself, how nature, as we refer to it now, sustains itself. And okay, so I'll continue in my next interview of how they then developed the intricate nature of the physical human form.